Sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Filament. It is the proximal end with filament. Proximal end is with thalamus. जो फ्लावर का proximal end होता है वो thalamus के पास होता है या फिर petals of the leaves. Anther. It is bilobed with each lobe containing two theca, therefore called diathecous. Total 4 lobes are present in anther. It is tetragonal structure, 4-sided. 4 microsporangia develop into pollen sac, extend longitudinally through anther, packed with pollen grains. Longitudinal groove runs lengthwise to separate theca. Anther. इसके पास 2 लोब होते हैं. हर लोब में 2 थीका होते हैं. Therefore called diathecous. तो 2 लोब और एक लोब के अंदर 2 थीका. तो टोटल थीका कितने होंगे? 4. 4 थीका and each lobe with 2 theca called diathecous. Tetragonal structure, that is 4-sided, is there और उसमें 4 माइक्रोस्पोरेंजिया होते हैं. 4 माइक्रोस्पोरेंजिया develop into pollen sac, extend longitudinally through anther, packed with pollen grains. A longitudinal groove runs lengthwise to separate a theca. Microsporangia contain 4 layers. Number 1 epidermis, number 2 endothecium, number 3 middle layers, number 4 tapetum. Epidermis is parenchymatous, connected to endothecium by common walls. Endothecium contains thickening, that is large side cellulose. Middle layer perform the function of protection, help in dehiscence of anther to release pollen. Number 4 tapetum. It is the innermost layer, also secrete Ubish granules, exine sculpture and pollen kit which is sticky in nature for insect pollination. Tapetum. It is the innermost layer which provide nutrition to pollen grains. Contains dense cytoplasm. It is multinucleated and secrete sporopollenin, cellulase to digest cellulose. The center of microsporangia contains sporogenous tissue. When anther is young, it is called sporogenous tissue, which is homogeneously compact arranged cells. Sporogenous tissue undergoes meiosis to form microspore tetrad. Sporogenous tissue with cellulose deposition is called pollen mother cell or microspore mother cell, that is MMC or PMC, which undergoes meiosis to form 4 microspores, and then when vacuole formation leads to mitosis, unequal division of cytoplasm and formation of asymmetric single vegetative generative cell, forming pollen grain or male gametophyte. Young anther undergoes dehydration to form mature anther. Young anther have 4 sporangia, while in mature anther it contains 2 pollen sac. 4 layers of microsporangia are intact in young anther, in which in mature anther only 2 layers, that is epidermis and endodermis, are left. Sporogenous tissue, when dehydrated, form pollen grain 25 to 30 micrometer in diameter. Pollen grain contains intine, which is made up of cellulose or pectin. 60% angiosperm Two-cell stage, that is, pollen shedding occurs in two-cell stage. Pollen is viable for 30 minutes in rice, cereals, and wheat. It is viable for months in Rosaceae, Leguminosae, and Solanaceae. Inside ovary, ovarian cavity or locule is present in which placenta is present. From placenta, ovules or microsporangia arises out by funicle or stalk. One ovule is present in wheat, paddy, or mango, while many ovules are present in orchid, papaya, and melon. Ovule fuses with funicle in the region hilum called the junction. Ovule contains protective envelopes called integuments that encircle the nucellus except at the small opening called micropyle, which is opposite to the chalaza or basal part. Inside nucellus is female gametophyte or embryo sac. MMC undergoes megasporogenesis to form megaspore. In MMC, only one is differentiated at micropylar end of nucellus. MMC undergoes meiosis, that is, two cell is divided into four cell, and then four cell undergoes third meiosis to form eight cell, that is, three meiosis or karyokinesis occurs. Autogamy. Autogamy is there in which communella, viola or pansy and oxalis are there. In geitonogamy, functionally cross-pollination and genetically autogamy occurs. Xeno or allogamy, that is abiotic, wind, non-sticky, light pollen, large and feathery stigma, well-exposed stamen, one ovule in one ovary is there of fluorescence. Example is corn cab tarsals, grasses. In water pollination, 30 genera of monocots. Example Vallisneria, tape grass, hydrilla. That is, in Vallisneria and hydrilla, fresh water, while in Zea mays, there occurs pollination of water in marine water. In water pollination, mucilage is required to protect from wetting. In Zoostera, it is hypohydrophily, while in Vallisneria, it is epihydrophily due to presence of long stalk. Water hyacinth and water lily are above water surface, therefore insect or wind pollination occurs. Biotic pollinators could be maximum time bee, butterfly, bird which are sun or hummingbird, bats, lemur or primates, arboreal rodents, reptiles. In lizards are gecko or garden lizard. Maximum time when biotic pollination occurs by insect, it contains large, colorful flowers, while in beetles and flies, foul odor are required to attract. Reward for the pollinator is safe place by egg, safe place to lay the egg, tallest flower, that is Morphophallus, which is 6 feet, and yucca plant and moth pollination both are dependent on each other, where larva comes out of the cell and moth deposit egg in the locule of the ovary. Continued self-pollination, that is, inbreeding depression, requires to avoid inbreeding depression requires outbreeding devices. Number 1. Unsynchronized stigma, receptivity and pollen release. Different length of anther and stigma. Self-incompatibility, that is genetic mechanism to prevent self-pollen. Unisexual flower to prevent autogamy but not geitonogamy. In castor and maize, dioecious, either male or female, example papaya, in which autogamy and geitonogamy is prevented. Zygote forms pre-embryo, then globular and hard embryo leads to the formation of mature embryo. Fleshy fruit, example guava, orange, mango, and dry fruits example are mustard and groundnut. 10,000 years ago in Arctic tundra contains Lupin artiacus. 2,000 years ago date palm was found, that is Phoenix lactifer, which in archaeological excavation of King Harold Place called Dead Sea. Orchid contains thousands of tiny seeds along with Orobranchi and Striga, which are parasitic species. Apomixis example are Asteracean grasses in which seeds are formed without fertilization. It is a form of asexual reproduction which mimics sexual reproduction. When there is no meiosis and no fertilization, diploid egg cell is formed and then embryo is developed. Example is mango citrus, in where nucleus nuclear cells developed where one ovule has many embryo. Occurrence of more than one embryo is called polyembryony, which occurs in mango and citrus, that is, formation of root without fertilization. So, filament contains proximal end of thalamus or petal of the flower. Anther is bilobed, which each lobe were 2 theca, that is dithecous, and total 4 theca. Longitudinal grooves runs lengthwise to separate theca. Anther is tetragonal structure, that is four-sided with 4 microsporangia, develops into pollen sac, extend longitudinally through anther, packed with pollen grains. Microsporangia contain 4 layers: epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, and tapetum. Epidermis and endothecium are connected by common walls. Epidermis is of parenchyma. Endodermis contain large cell with cellulose thickening. In middle layers, uncommon layer pass food through connectors. Middle layer perform function of protection, help in dehiscence of anther to release pollen. Tapetum is the innermost layer, provide nutrition to pollen grain. With dense cytoplasm, multinucleated and secrete sporopollenin. Calyx help to digest cellulose layer. Center of microsporangia contains sporogenous tissue. When anther is young, it undergoes meiosis when become mature to form microspore tetrad. Sporogenous tissue is homogeneously compact arranged cells. With cellulose deposition forms MMC or PMC, that is pollen mother cell or microspore mother cell, which undergoes microsporogenesis, that is a meiosis process to form 4 microspores leading to vacuole formation, and mitosis further with unequal division of cytoplasm and formation of generative and vegetative cell. Asymmetric spindle formation, unequal division of cytoplasm and formation of asymmetric spindle leads to vegetative and generative cell. Pollen grain or male gametophytes are formed. Tapetum also secrete Ubish granule with exine sculpture and pollenicate with its sticky in nature for insect pollination. Young anther with 4 microsporangia, 4 layers of microsporangia and sporogenous tissue undergoes dehydration to form mature anther, that is 2 pollen sac with 2 layers of epidermis and endothecium, and sporogenous tissue get converted into pollen grain with 25 to 30 micrometer in diameter. Pollen grain contains intine made up of cellulose and pectin. 60% angiosperm pollen shedding occurs in two-cell stage. Pollen is viable for 30 minutes in rice, that is cereals, and wheats, for months in Rosaceae and Leguminaceae and Solanaceae. Inside ovary, that is ovarian cavity or locule, placenta is present. From placenta, ovule or microsporangia arises out of funicle or a stalk. One ovule is present in wheat, paddy, and mango, while many ovules are present in orchid, papaya, and melon. Ovule fuses with funicle in the region or junction called hilum. Ovule contain protective envelope, that is integuments, which encircle the nucellus except at a small opening called microbile. Opposite is the chalaza or basal part of the microbile. Inside the nucellus, female gametophyte or embryo sac is found where MMC undergoes megasporogenesis to form megaspore. It undergoes 3 meiosis, that is karyokinesis. Only one is differentiated at the micropylar end of nucellus. Autogamy occurs in Communella, Viola or Pansy and Oxalis. Gymnogamy, functionally cross-pollination and genetically autogamy. Xenogamy, abiotic factors are wind, which contains non-sticky, light pollen, large and feathery stigma, well-exposed stamen. One ovule is in one ovary. Example: corn cob with tassel grasses. In hydrophily, that is pollination by waters, 30 genera of monocots are examples: Vallisneria, verrucous or tape grass. Vallisneria tape grass contains epihydrophily due to presence of long stalk and hydrilla of fresh water, while in Zoostera it occurs hypohydrophily, which is a seagrass in marine. Water pollination requires mucilage to protect from wetting. Water hyacinth and water lily are above the water surface, so insect and wind pollination are required. Biotic factors could be in the lattice insect in maximum cases required large and colorful flowers. Other biotic factors are butterfly, sun, bird, hummingbird, bats, lemur primates, arboreal rodents, reptiles, that is ginkgo and garden lizard. Beetles or flies. Foul odor to attract. Reward is to safe place to the lay egg. Tall flower Amorphophallus is 6 feet. Yucca and moth give them reward by giving safe place to lay egg and are dependent on them for helping in pollination while larva comes out of the egg during egg development. Continued self-pollination is called inbreeding depression, which requires outbreeding devices. First is unsynchronized, that is, stigma receptivity and pollen release. Different length of anther and stigma. Self-incompatibility is a genetic mechanism that prevent self-pollen. And unisexual flower prevent autogamy but not gynogamy in castor and maize. Dioecious, either male or female. Example, papaya, auto, in which auto and gynogamy is prevented. Zygote forms pro-embryo, then globular and hard embryo leads to mature embryo. Fleshy fruit examples are guava, orange, mango, and dry fruit examples are mustard and groundnut. 10,000 years ago, in Arctic tundra, Lupin artiacus was found. 2000 years ago, date palm and Phoenix lactifer it was found in archaeological excavation of King Harold Place in Dead Sea. Orchid contains thousands of seeds along with orobranchi and striga with parasitic species. Apomixis example are Asteraceae and grasses where seed formation occurs without fertilization. It is an asexual reproduction that mimics sexual reproduction. When there is no meiosis and no fertilization, diploid egg cell is formed and then embryo is developed. Example mango and citrus where nuclear cell developed where one ovule has many embryo. It is called polyembryony when occurrence of more than one embryo and formation of fruit occurs without fertilization. Microbes and human welfare include protozoa, bacteria, fungi, and microsporic animals, plants, viroids, prions, proteinaceous infectious agents come under microbes. They are found in deep geysers, thermal vents at 100 degrees Celsius, deep soil under the layer of snow with the several meter thick, highly acidic environment also contains microbes. Bacteria and many fungus could be grown on nutritive medium to form colonies. Lactobacillus and other microorganisms called LAB that is lactic acid bacteria grow in milk to form curd. LAB produce acid which coagulate, digest casein which is milk protein, casein partially in 100 million minutes in inoculum starter multiplied suitable temperature to form curd. Nutritional quantity is increased by increasing vitamin B12 which is benefit for stomach help to check disease causing bacteria. Therefore curd is called as probiotic. Dosa, Idli's dough is fermented by bacteria. Toddy, a traditional drink in South India, is fermented sap from the palm. Microbes fermented by fish, soya bean, and bamboo shoot help to make food. Different varieties in textures, flavor, taste of cheese is observed. Large whole, that is, Swiss cheese, called is formed by a bacteria Propionibacterium sharmani. Roquefort cheese is formed by penicillin, the fungus Penicillium roqueforti. It grows in large vessels called fermenters, helps in production of industrial scale. Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a yeast that is fermented by malted cereals and fruit juices to produce ethanol. Wine and wine and beer are formed without distillation, while wine produced brandy and beer produced whiskey. Both brandy and whiskey are distilled. Antibiotics means against life while they are pro-life for human. Antibiotics are produced by some microbes and kill or retard the growth of disease-causing microbes. Alexander Fleming, while working on Staphylococcus bacteria, observed dewashed culture plates around the bacteria in which bacteria can't grow. Mould produce a chemical named penicillin. Full potential as active antibiotic was established by Ernest Chain, Howard Florey to treat American soldiers in World War II. Both Ernest Chain and Howard Florey won Nobel Prize in 1945. Antibiotics treat plague, leprosy, diphtheria, tuberculosis, and whooping cough. Leprosy is called Kusht Rog, diphtheria called Galgotu, and whooping cough called Khalikasi. Clostridium butyricum is a bacteria that produces butyric acid. Acetobacter aceti is a bacteria produce acetic acid. Aspergillus niger, a fungus, produce citric acid. Lipase is a detergent. It's manufactured. Remove oil stains in the laundry. Pectinase or proteases, clarified bottle juices, and digest fibers. Streptokinase, produced by bacteria Streptococcus, help in clotbuster, modified by genetic engineering, dissolve clot in myocardial infarction patients, which may lead to heart attack. Cyclosporin A fungus called Trichoderma polysporum, help to suppress immune system. Statin, produced by yeast Monascus purpurans, decreases blood cholesterol. Statin competitively inhibits enzyme responsible for cholesterol synthesis. STP primary it contains physical removal of small large particles by filtration and sedimentation. First, floating debris is removed by sequential filtration. In sedimentation help to remove grit, soil and small pebbles. All solids settle, form primary sludge and supernatant form effluent which is taken for secondary or biological process. It is passed into large aeration tank and constantly agitated mechanically and air is pumped. Growth of usual growth of useful aerobic aerobes microaerobes into flock called masses of bacteria with fungal filament is formed. Mesh-like structure consumes organic matter which is BOD. Chemical oxygen demand decreases. BOD is amount of oxygen consumed if all organic matter in 1 liter of water were oxidized by bacteria, that is, rate of oxygen uptake by microorganism or amount of organic matter present in water. BOD is directly proportional to pollution and inversely proportional to dissolved oxygen. STP treatment is done till BOD is highly decreased. Effluent is passed to the settling tank where bacterial flocks are allowed to sediment to form activated sludge. Some serve as inoculum back into aeration tank. Activated sludge remaining part is pumped into anaerobic sludge digesters where other kind of bacteria digest bacteria and fungus. Bacteria produce H2S, carbon dioxide and methane. GAP and YAP, that is Ganga Action Plan and Yamuna Action Plan, was initiated by Ministry of Environment and Forest. Biogas plant. It is 10 to 15 feet deep concrete tank in which slurry of dung is fed, over which floating cover is present and rises. Outlet connected to pipe for biogas supply to nearby houses. Spent slurry removed by another outlet used as fertilizers, and in another houses used in lighting and cooking. It was developed by IARI, that is Indian Agriculture Research Institute, and KVIC, Khadi and Village Industries Commission. Biocontrol agent includes biomethods to control plant pests and diseases. Agriculture relies on natural predation rather chemicals as in conventional farming when chemicals kill both useful and harmful bacteria. Organic farming in this insect called pests aren't completely eradicated but kept at manageable level at complex system of checks and balance. It is not possible, not desirable, as without them beneficial predators and parasite insect which depends on them for host or plants wouldn't survive. Approach it becomes familiar with various life forms that inhabit the field of both predators and pests, their life cycle and pattern of feeding of habits to be studied. Ladybird eat aphids, dragonfly eat mosquitoes, Bt in the sachet, it is the dry spores mixed with water and sprayed on vulnerable plants like brassica, fruit trees where Bt spores are eaten by butterfly caterpillars. In their gut, toxin is released and they get killed. This toxin is Bt toxic gene introduced into plant to make it resistant to the attack by insect pest. Example is Bt cotton. It is effective biocontrol agent by fungus Trichoderma, free living, common on common in root ecosystem fungus which protect from root-borne pathogen. Baculovirus pathogens that attack insect and other arthropod in genes nucleopolyhedrovirus and specific and species specific and excellent merospectrum insecticidal applicator. No impact on plant, mammals, birds, fishes, or even on non-target insects. Requirement when beneficial insects are conserved to aid in IPM integrated pest management program or when an ecological sensitive area have to be treated. Bacillorovirus is very modified. Biofertilizers contains BGA, bacteria and fungus. Biofertilizers includes organisms that enrich nutrient quality of soil. Mycorrhiza glomus, a fungus, absorb phosphorus from soil and transfer it to pinus, which shows resistance to root-borne pathogen, tolerance to salinity and drought. Azospirillum, an azotobacter, free-living nitrogenous fixer, aerobic leguminous nitrogen fixer are rhizobia, soybean, and Frankia in Alnus. Free-living anaerobes are Clostridium and Bacillus. BGA includes Azolla bianabina, nostoc, and anabina, and Oscillatoria are free-living found in paddy fields. In organic farming, never useful never use semi-draft variety, which insects crop dependent on climate for infection. Biogas release hydrogen gas (STP) in that H2S gas is released. In STP, primary treatment primary effluent is passed through aeration tank and aerobic digester is required, which is passed to settling tank or flock setter. This settling tank release into secondary effluent release into river, and tertiary treatment includes sunlight and chlorination. From settling tank, activated sludge is passed into anaerobic digestion where gas is released.